All right, I believe we are live. Good morning, good evening, good night, or good wherever you are, whatever this good is. Welcome
Good
to
grief.
yeah, exactly. Welcome to our live show for the week. We have obviously a huge lineup here. Not usually so many faces, but obviously we have Matthew, we have Chief, we have Kevin, and we also have Casper from Redcurry as well. So a whole lot of L1X natives, plus Casper from Redcurry, and I'm really looking forward to how this plays out, the questions that are coming through. Obviously, we've got a really good community engagement, and I'm sure they've got questions to push through as well for you, Casper, and also for the team with massive amount of information lined up for everybody. So I won't take too much time of everybody with my intros, but I'll pass straight over. Who wants to kick us off?
Yeah, I think I might kick off and just we're going to cover a few different things tonight. Predominantly, it's great to have Caspar here from Redcurry. And I know some of you guys already know a little bit about Redcurry. They're doing something really interesting, but we thought we might use tonight to dive a little bit deeper into how they are using the technology, hear from what's happening with Redcurry, what's going on, what's some of the interesting information, where they're at. And then towards the end, then we'll cover a little bit about the experts and the nodes as well. We're going to touch on those tonight because we want to do a full deep dive of all the details next week, but we will touch on those tonight as well. But look, welcome, Casper. Thank you. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
For those who don't already know, Casper, can you tell us a little bit about Redcurry? What are you guys doing? How long have you been building for? What the problem is that you're solving?
Sure, yeah. So we see the world as a concurrent private currency world, and it's not a new concept, quite an old one actually, but we see it now realizing more and more. And our mission in that world is to enable basically universal access to reliable money and ensuring that we have a stable store of value for everybody. So everybody being underbanked and banked. And how we achieve that is to building a new digital asset class. Basically, it is designed to protect your wealth, and it's as easy to use as Bitcoin. So how we do that is we're building a stable digital asset that's backed by commercial real estate. So basically, in essence, and simplifying this a lot, is that we take commercial real estate and use that as a collateral to issue tokens, which are then fungible, easy to use as any other cryptocurrency that people are used to now already. But at the same time, what is different from all these other products that we see on the market is that it is extremely stable. And that is backed by a lot of data from commercial real estate, prime commercial real estate in Europe, and especially looking at the real value of that real estate, not perhaps some ETF or market values that also fluctuate, but we can get into that if need be later.
So you go, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Casper, what you've really described there is actually quite fascinating. And I know we've had a number of chats already, but just touching on that, really what you're describing is, it sounds like that what you're describing there is effectively money that's resistant to inflation. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, if you look at our investment strategy into those collateral, which is commercial real estate, that investment strategy is quite simple. It is to minimize the volatility of these underlying assets and then to outperform inflation. And the way we do that is that we look at only cash flow proven real estate. And in commercial real estate, the cash flow comes obviously from rental yield, and rental yield itself in commercial real estate has always outperformed inflation. As a matter of fact, as the inflation goes up, so does the rental income. And that allows us to outperform inflation while minimizing any volatility that you would otherwise have in this, high volatility times on the market. But that is the core concept. You're spot on that the reason why people would use Redcurry is to go to a safe haven, right? So in times of high volatility on the markets, and sometimes they're accompanied by high inflation, where will you be? Which asset class are you going to invest into? So Redcurry is designed exactly for that, so that you can hedge against inflation and stay in a low volatility asset class, but at the same time that is accessible. It's democratic. It's you don't need to be a Wall Street wolf to use this. You can be a mom and pop shop, or you can be a Wall Street wolf if you want to. So anybody can actually buy it and get access to prime real estate and exposure actually to prime real estate in Europe.
Right, and that actually sounds like traditionally it's very difficult to get into things like commercial real estate, simply because of properties are bought and sold with loans from big banks or financial institutions. So this, effectively what you're describing, enables people to get in literally at almost any time into a piece of commercial, either a piece of commercial real estate or an ETF equivalent or some form of fund. Is that correct?
Right. So the way we structured Redcurry legally is that it is a non-security. So you use it as you would use any other currency. It's a fungible asset, meaning that you're not investing into any specific real estate. And then what that allows you to do, it doesn't require you to be an investor. So if you would, a lot of projects do this, they digitalize real estate or they digitalize existing asset classes. But then again, you need to be an investor. But if you have 2 kids, 9-to-5 job, you love your job, you don't have time to be an investor. So the Redcurry is designed for people to buy as a currency, but then being sure that it's actually backed by something that is cash flow proven and that is stable. So in a way, you can look at it that it behaves like money, like any other currency would, but it's actually backed by real estate. In this example, we could switch real estate with any other asset class and the concept would still work the same way. And how we achieve this is that so basically what I'm saying is that you transfer the value, but not the ownership of the real estate. And how we achieve that is that our foundation purchases that commercial real estate and then renounces it. So the foundation itself is renounced. So what happens is that as nobody is owning the real estate, there is no UBO, right? There is nobody who can pull the rug. Then the token itself, Redcurry itself, becomes, in a way, the ultimate beneficiary. But as I said, it's a fungible asset, so you don't own any specific part of the real estate. It's rather that the entire collateral of the currency is made up of a pool of real estate investments that is then owned by the foundation, but the foundation itself is owned by nobody, and that can actually be done in Europe by very old laws, and these are the same laws that the wealthy and the elites have been using to protect their own assets for a very long time. So that allows us to build this democratic product on top of actually not so democratic laws before.
Oh, thank you for that. Appreciate it. I'll pass it back to you. Or Kevin,
I think, no, thanks for that, Casper. And the first time, when I spoke to Casper as well, I can see a lot of people in the community have the same question. So if you, look at the stablecoin landscape, right? Like more than 70% of the transactions on exchanges, centralized exchanges, are in stablecoins. Whereas on decentralized finance, it's somewhere between 25 and 60%. So it does occupy a huge portion of either the centralized exchange or even, in the decentralized blockchain space. Now, I've got 2 questions over here. The first one is, how do you see, Redcurry as a token that's traded on a day-to-day basis in terms of, exchange of hands for various goods. Number one, and again, just on the same question, we've seen like a lot of these, real world assets being tokenized and put on the blockchain, right? So how does Redcurry fit into a situation like that? Does it mean that we don't have to tokenize real estate anymore? Or it's a part of the process? So the first one is, how is it different to stable coins and on a day-to-day trading basis? And second one is, how does it position itself in the real estate tokenization landscape?
Sure. So the way we look at stable coins is that we are not competing with any of them. Stable coins are ultimately digital twin of currencies that we already know, and some love and some hate, and which means that they're just a digital representation of what you already have. So if you have USDT or USDC or any other stable coin, EuroC, etc., they behave the same way as you would hold the physical paper money when it comes to the economics of it. So they follow the underlying value of a dollar or euro or any other currency. Redcurry is fundamentally different. It's more as an additional asset class next to stable coins. So it works together with them. So, currencies will not go anywhere. US dollar will not go anywhere, and neither will most of the major currencies in the near future. What Redcurry offers is an additional supplementary product next to it that allows you to actually hedge against inflation. And if you look at the stablecoin movements on chain, in times of high volatility, you see a lot of assets moving into stablecoins. And why people do that is they're trying to find kind of a stable place to be until the volatility blows over, or they're doing some other transactional things. We see that Redcurry can be used at these volatile times as a good a stable asset to stay in while not being exposed to inflation. And that is very important difference from stable coins, because if nobody wants to stay in dollar for too long, but you can stay in Redcurry for a very long time and you'll still be getting out of it without being exposed to inflation. So, for example, if you're moving from one investment to another, what you do today is you sell your one asset class, you stay in your currency or in stable coins, for example, if you're in the digital asset space. And then for that time being, until you can get access to the next asset, you're going to have to be exposed to that inflation. Redcurry allows you to be the middle kind of a period, a parking of your liquidity for that period of time, whether that's, for example, 3 months or 6 months or 3 years, without being exposed to that inflation. So we're very different in that sense. But, you mentioned about this movement of money in terms of goods and services as well, I suppose. We see that one thing that I personally see, a lot of merchants, they can accept crypto. Technically, it's doable. It's not very complicated to set up. Legally, it's a little bit of work, but you can still do it. Merchants could accept Bitcoin or Ethereum, and we see these in cafe shops today, but they're very few and big fans. And one of the reasons they don't do it is because you don't know the value tomorrow. And so the currency risk is just very high. So with Redcurry, we see that goods and services or merchants could accept Redcurry as any other digital currency, but they wouldn't have to worry about the value tomorrow. And as a matter of fact, they would directly hold it as almost not an investment necessarily, but as a stable store of value for until they actually need it for something else. So it could be a good product for people to use, actually to accept for services. So one example that we're currently pursuing as well is deposit payments. So, for example, in commercial real estate in Europe, average contract is 5 years, and you need to down pay your deposit. And for 5 years, that deposit is locked in whatever currency the landlord accepts. Usually it's euro. And with the current inflation rate, after 5 years, it's not a lot. And most of the time, you know, you don't you want to get your deposit back. So having that deposit in Redcurry instead of euro, for example, would be very beneficial for the person who rents. But moving on, you actually asked about real world tokenization as well, and how that kind of is separate, or do we need it after Redcurry? I still think we do, and these are fundamentally, again, very different products that are being built. So fractional ownership is one of them. So we are not creating a fractional ownership product. So if you want to buy a specific real estate or a fraction of it, you still would need tokenization of these assets. So Redcurry does not create a competition for that. Rather, actually, it would be possible for us to buy some of these real-world asset tokens as Redcurry's collateral in and of itself, if the underlying real estate passes our criteria, and if it's a premium and a high-quality commercial real estate. But we could potentially be a client for these tokenization projects. So nothing stops us from making those investment decisions if the fundamental underlying asset is high quality. Yeah, so we're not offering the fractional ownership part here. Rather, it's more of a money project. it's more of a financial asset rather than a real estate project.
It's
right.
Yeah. I've got a question. So, yes, like the US dollar is subject to inflation. There's risk there, but there's also that security around, if a bank's responsibility to look after the money, right? There's government backing. There's all these things that kind of insure against. But obviously, when you come to commercial real estate, you can destroy it, you can burn it. Your cash flow can be affected. The land can be destroyed. Like, there's all these things. How do you insure against all the risks that come with commercial real estate? And then, so probably that's one question. The other one is, how are you using the cash flow coming from the commercial real estate as well?
Yeah, very good questions. So indeed, the reason why we trust currency or take any major currency today is that we will have central banks who then guarantee the tradability of that, and there are a lot of laws in place to protect that. And Redcurry actually falls under similar or not banking laws, but we are controlled by the courts in Europe. So the foundation that I mentioned before, that is a renounced foundation. It's actually based in Austria, and it is follows the private law of private foundation law of Austria. It's from 1991, and it states that for us to have a foundational deed where we write these principles in, and once we establish the foundation, this deed cannot be changed. As we renounce the foundation as well, nobody can ever change it. So the courts, we now fall under the control of the courts to actually follow those rules that we ourselves created and published for everybody to see, but nobody can change it. It's like, in a way, an old version of a smart contract. Once it's out there, you cannot change it. So we are regulated. We need to invest into only the assets that we have stated, and only in the way we have stated in the deed or the foundation deed. And that is public information. It's in the public domain. So in that, we state that every cent that is received from the purchase of Redcurry goes into the purchase of the underlying collateral commercial real estate, and that this collateral or this commercial real estate then needs to, let's say, pass the criteria that we have set forth, which is all on our website. That's all. For the sake of time, I won't go into this today, but this is basically B+A primary commercial real estate cash flow proven. So we cannot go against that deed, and if we go against that deed, then this is regulated by the courts of Austria, and there is not much else to talk about that. That's a full stop. So we are highly regulated in that sense. And that also guarantees that if you buy Redcurry and if you own Redcurry, you can be sure that you are protected by the court system. Right? So there is no way for us, for example, to sell the real estate without buying back Redcurry. There is no way for us to buy or sell you Redcurry without investing that into the underlying asset or the collateral asset. And of course, if we do that, then we go against the laws, criminal laws. So that is kind of the end of it. So maybe you have some follow-up questions on that. Not sure if that was clear. You had also a question about how the rental yields will be used, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the rental yield will be reinvested. Redcurry, the organization will take a small transaction fee from the rental yield, or a small percentage of the rental yield for, of course, the operations and the revenue for the organization as well, which will, if we have time, get into later where that actual revenue goes. So a small part of that rental yield will be used for the revenue of the organization, and the rest will go into reinvesting into the real estate. So whatever real estate we have purchased and we manage, we will then use the rental yield to reinvest into that real estate. So as we know, commercial real estate needs reinvestments, whether that is the upkeep, the maintenance, the refurbishment, etc. So actually, and what that does is that once you reinvest into the real estate, it increases the net asset value of that real estate. And because we don't increase the supply with that reinvestment operation, we actually increase that's one of the ways that you actually increase the face value of the token as well, because the underlying asset value goes up, but the supply doesn't go up with the rental yield. So that's one of the mechanisms how you are actually outperforming inflation as well.
Mm-hmm. I reckon we could probably deep dive for a long time around that. But I think, it sounds like you guys have obviously done a lot of work in terms of prior to this, right? Prior to this particular point in setting up the mechanisms and the foundation legal structure to be able to provide an asset like real estate versus a highly inflationary asset like the US dollar. As an option. It'll be interesting to see if even project tokens prefer to pair with a real estate backed token versus a USD stablecoin.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could potentially use any other asset class that is cash flow generating asset class that is stable. You can use the similar system to, for example, purchase forests. And if you know how to value forests and if you know how to monetize them, then it could also work. The problem with forests is that their valuations are complicated. Their cash flow generation is complicated. There are means that are now, there are more and more products and technologies that are coming to the market that help us to do that better. So, for example, like carbon credit systems and all that stuff, but it's still very much complicated. Commercial real estate in that way is much more proven. Yeah, so we are not reinventing the wheel here. We are creating a fund of funds that generates cash flow. We are just using the value of the real estate, including the cash flow that it generates, to back a currency. Instead of, for example, using gold, which used to be the case, as we all know, but gold has, proven more and more and again that it's actually not the best hedge against inflation. We can go into more details of that, but also gold is not very democratic. As we know, there are ways to manipulate the price of gold, but it's very hard to do that on a commercial real estate level when it's diversified enough.
Yeah, and it's not really a revenue or cash flow bearing asset, is it?
No,
like
absolutely not. And it's cost to keep. Actually, it's cost to keep. Yeah, so it's very expensive to maintain gold. Whereas real estate is, as we know, revenue generated.
I think, Joe, you tokenized your gold tooth, didn't you? You got a gold tooth going on there?
Of course. You guys should have one of those.
You know what was interesting to me is the conversation that you and Kevin had about the utilization of Layer 1X and what you guys are trying to achieve. That's probably about all I'm going to say, because obviously you guys, I wasn't in that conversation, but it was really interesting to hear that conversation. Maybe if you guys want to talk a little bit about how Layer 1X comes into this, you know.
Sure.
Yeah,
maybe.
you know,
Okay, Kevin, take it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think these kind of projects, right? They're great, because if you look at it, like if you analyze this project, every person, like, you know, if you look at the stats, right, they have 25-30% worth of stables in their portfolio. And introducing this kind of digital asset where it's working for you at the background automatically, you know, eliminates a lot of friction of people coming into the ecosystem as well, where there is stability, there is a way to earn, in a stable manner. But also at the same time, if you look at the the second layer of it, reaching out to tokenized assets and then having them in your asset registry provides transparency in terms of what this asset is backed up with. Because even right now, like you have USDT, BUSD, we really don't know what it's backed up with. So in terms of creating an asset class that's truly stable in a way, but at the same time making you yields and being transparent while pushing a layer 2 solution like tokenization of real estate is very hard to come by. So yeah, and of course, I'll let you go, Casper, in terms of how Xtalk and Layer 1X can actually help you guys go multi-chain as well. So yeah, maybe why go multi-chain, or what's the purpose of it? Let's just start with that, Casper.
Sure. So you mentioned transparency, and it's a little bit of a tangent, but this is a very good point you brought out. So with Redcurry, all the assets that are used as the collateral for the currency are also on chain. So it's not that we have some shady database and website where you can check what assets are there, but rather all the data is on chain. So it's publicly auditable at any single point of time. And as a matter of fact, that data is then used to issue or redeem Redcurry. And that's done by another smart contract. So it's all done by the code that is then public. It's on the public domain, and people can see what's the actual value and what are the actual individual assets, the real estate then, that is used as the collateral. So the transparency part for us is very important. Otherwise, you won't have adoption, you won't have public trust in it. And for us, we understood it from a very early design phase that everything needs to be fully transparent, open source, and running on chain. Which brings us to the cross-chain question, right? So for us, for Redcurry to be successful, you need to have liquidity ultimately. Like if we want this to be the next Bitcoin, it needs to have high liquidity. And the liquidity can be achieved through cross-chain, right? So we in the crypto space or in the DeFi space, there's a lot of these isolated different communities that are, the fans of one or fans of the other, but we see it more as not as these individual blockchains, but rather as part of the real world. We just built the real world built on new technological chains or rails, and there is no room, I think, for isolation here. Emails used to work only from one system to another. Today you wouldn't imagine that emails could be a thing if you can't send it to anybody in the world, and that's only possible thanks to these different standards that were developed. And different protocols, of course. And we understand that for Redcurry to be this widely adopted and high liquidity, it needs to be cross-chain. It needs to talk between different blockchains. It doesn't matter, are you a fan of one or the other? You can buy, you can sell, you can trade Redcurry on any blockchain. And building all this up ourselves from scratch is very expensive and it requires a lot of work today. What we see that what you guys are doing in L1X is that it's just making the life so much easier for those who are building applications or some infrastructure levels or layers. So ultimately, we are in the business of managing real estate and managing this currency. We're not in the business of building this blockchain technology, right? And right now, we would have to do that, without companies or companies like L1X. We would have to build a lot of this ourselves, and obviously you don't want to do that. So you want to use technologies that allows you to easily plug and play almost your idea, your applications, your tech stack, and it would work seamlessly with different blockchains. And so, that's a huge part of why I guess I'm here and why we're having these discussions.
Yeah.
Is that we really want to be available everywhere, independent of what community you're part of or what blockchain or cryptocurrency you like the most. And then that brings liquidity. So that is actually helpful for all these different blockchains. I don't see them, of course, they're competing in a way, they're competing for developers and they're competing for the projects and communities. But in the end of the day, if they work together, if this information flows between different projects seamlessly, it enhances liquidity for everybody. And I think that's a very important thing what you guys are doing. And it would be, that's why we're looking forward to using this technology to bring Redcurry to everybody in the future.
Yeah, and I think it aligns perfectly with the vision of Xtalk and L1X as well, right? So what I've done is, just so that our community members, the community members of Redcurry, can have a takeaway in terms of how this would actually work as a use case. I've prepared my Miro board, very simple, 5 minutes maximum, just a simple diagram. I know the AMA wouldn't be complete without that. So
without a board,
my screen.
This is
Impossible. Impossible.
It's a classic, Kevin. Classic.
It's a must-have.
Yeah. Just a sec. I'm having problems sharing my screen. Yeah, perfect. Can you guys see the screen? Not yet. One sec. Let me just try presenting the whole screen. Yeah.
Here we go.
How about now?
Got it.
Yeah, good to go.
Okay. Perfect. Let me. Okay. So if you think about it, we have there are 3 to 4 different types of contracts that we need. And there's the asset contract that recognizes the assets net asset value. Now, without L1X, you would need to punch in the Oracle system, but thanks to our event listener nodes that we have over here, right? You have your governor contract. Basically, I'll let Casper speak on this later, but the governor contract is then responsible based on the net asset value to go and mint the number of tokens, which would be the Redcurry token, right? Now, what will happen over here is, if you have your Redcurry token on multiple different chains, you will need these people to maintain a register. So because the number of tokens and the net asset value of the assets in the asset contract, which is probably transparent, they have to sync with each other. They have to tally with each other. Now, if you did this in a way that bridges would work, there would be 2 problems. One is you would have to go and update something called as a master token and asset registry on all the chains. So 30 tokens plus 30 tokens plus 40 tokens should be equal to 100 net asset value. And that table or that registry is maintained in the master token registry contract. Now, if you have this contract on all the different chains, the cost will increase. And also at the same time, there could be a sync up issue, which is if there are 2 to 3 different types of transactions done at the same time, the governor contract being able to update this particular token will have to make sure that they go and update and mint this token on various chains in the same manner. So this synchronization process as to how does the governor contract go and mint this extra tokens based on the asset contract would also have a many-to-many relationship. So through L1X, it makes it much more seamless to issue these assets on multiple chains, also to maintain the registry. And if you think about it, this asset contract here, in the future, if you need to upgrade these contracts, you could have another contract like a tokenized real estate sending information through the listener node to the same asset contract. So it provides a way that if there's another project we are discussing with that is working on real estate tokenization. So even those kind of contracts can be directly integrated with one contract, so that if you have multiple asset contracts and multiple registry contracts, which one is transparent and which one do you trust? So in this way, it helps us consolidate the transparency process, of course, seamless development of it as well, reducing the cost and increasing the base of the token onto multiple networks for liquidity. Yeah, so as I said, less than 5 minutes. And what is also important to understand is the information that is being sent into the asset contract has to come from some Oracle system, right? And at the same time, you need like a multi-party wallet to be able to allow the governor contract to sign on these assets. That's also like a replication of these contracts into multiple different phases. And as I mentioned previously, if you look at the success of bridges or interoperable projects over the last 10 years, it has been two things. One is reducing the complexity of development, and second, it has been reducing the amount of contract it takes to get that work done. So having Redcurry as a project on L1X, ticks a lot of boxes, and I think it's a great project to have on board.
Just a question on that one, Kevin. Then let's say with the Redcurry token, if the underlying asset value is in one place, there's the registry. Does that mean that I can really just burn and mint as I go cross chain with the like? Let's say I want to go from Ethereum to BNB. Could I just burn the Ethereum based Redcurry token and then remint it again on the BNB side? So there's no need for a liquidity pool.
I think
the liquidity pool is the asset.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
Yeah. No, I think it's crazy because over here you could do it with both the ways. One is you could host liquidity pairing it with the Redcurry token, and on the other hand, you could just update the register and give access to this particular token. So the governor contract could take ownership of the same token on Ethereum while giving it on L1X or Polygon. So it could be done in both the ways. And really, the asset contract being on any of the chain doesn't really matter. It can be on Ethereum, Polygon. But what is important is that the master registry contract will always be on L1X. And it's the saying like, my wife says, right? Like, your assets are my assets are not your assets. So Ethereum transactions are our transactions, but our transactions are not necessarily Ethereum's transactions. So it's crazy.
So in a way, what you're saying, Kevin, is that Redcurry could then much easily move between different chains, but not only move from one chain to another, but also we can issue it on demand to any blockchain that we wish on demand, basically in real time. So we say we have a customer on Ethereum, or we have a customer in Polygon CKVM, then we can just decide, and we don't have to build out all these different relays and all these different tech stack on these different blockchains and maintaining them. And I think it plays well into to the transparency question, because if you make things complicated, they become not so transparent anymore. So you can make things transparent, but you also want people to understand what is actually happening there. So one of the, like you mentioned, this governor contract as well, and this asset contract, it would be for us very important that we have one copy of that, so that people don't start, it's an optical question as well, right? People don't start to look at it, okay, you say that you have all this data on chain, but there are so much we don't understand what's going on. So rather we have everything in one place. Yeah.
Yeah, and just on that, right, I remember a situation where when you're doing a cross-chain transaction, you can go on layer 0 Squid router and try this out. There is something called as an amount, right? So they may say that they are charging you 0.1%, 0.2%, doesn't really matter, but they are charging you a fixed fee apart from the gas fee in the amount. And that's also not very clear as to what is the actual cross-chain transaction cost. Like, we have been very clear with it. So the whole ideology of making things simple and transparent, I think is 100% required if we were to push interoperability.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you mentioned the governor contract, and maybe for the viewers to also understand why this governor contract and this asset contract is that, very briefly, that Redcurry can only be issued or burned by the governor smart contract based on the rules that are written into that smart contract. And these rules actually mirror are mirroring the foundational deed document. That is, of course, then the off-chain document that is then legally protected. And it states that we can only issue or redeem Redcurry according to the assets that are backing it. And this was a design decision very early on, where we see what happens with the dollar, right? It's printed at will. There is nobody can control it. It's some sort of a monetary policy of a central bank. But in our case, like Redcurry supply cannot be changed at will. And as a matter of fact, if I want to change the supply, I cannot. Only the governor contract can do it, and that's publicly auditable smart contract that's running on chain, and where people can review it and at any point in time look into it and how it works.
Well, I also think thinking about the utilization or wanting to move the Redcurry cross chain. The great thing about the X technology is you don't even need to do that. You can still collateralize on Polygon and then borrow on Arbitrum, right? So, like, because the smart contracts can talk to each other, there's really a lot less need to move your asset from where it has been natively minted, right? Which I think is also simplifying the process as well. To be able to, taking away steps, taking away cost. I think there's a few different.
It's a huge pain point, right? So for like DeFi, if anybody who has been operating in DeFi know the pain. So if you're like using those lending protocols, like and there you have so many chains, so many wallets, and actually that inherently limits the use of these services. They're great services. Well, not all of them, but some of them are. And it really stops people from accessing these services because they don't know what's going on. It's very hard to understand. And even if you're a professional, that sometimes your head will explode. But then for us, for Redcurry, and I'm sure for many other projects, if you can provide technology that makes ultimately the user's experience humane, then that will help these projects to actually get off the ground and get their customers as well, because the customers will only come if it's easy to use. And that can be done through, I see that the first step is interoperability. Then the next step is, we can talk about like how great UI you built for your app. But before you have solved interoperability, then no matter how great your UX is, you're not going to attract the mom and pop shop owners to use DeFi,
Casper, just another question there is, I can see the potential there for this. At the moment, obviously, you're looking at commercial real estate. What else is on the list? And I did see a question come up earlier, which is along the same lines. Are you looking at any other asset classes as well?
So we are playing around with the ideas, but these are just ideas, and we have had some discussions. Right now, we are fully focused on bringing Redcurry to the market, so we don't really have any room to implement anything else right now. But it's always good to vision and play around with the ideas and see the potential. So yes, the concept itself is agnostic to the underlying asset type, as long as it is cash flow generative and stable. And so you can now start listing those assets, and the list will be as long as your economic knowledge is. So let's take energy markets, right? Maybe not in the US, but regulated energy markets in Europe. That's very stable. Infrastructure, whether you have a bull market or bear market, you always need somebody to take your trash away. So infrastructure, companies in that or creating a pool of assets there can be a thing if you can accurately and transparently evaluate them, then they could work as long as they generate cash flow. Also, we have thought about green curry. So green curry would be then backed by forests. As we know, the forward carbon credit markets are unifying the carbon markets across the world. That kind of stabilizes the prices as well. So you can actually generate cash flow from the forestry, while actually this is an interesting concept, and I will do this small tangent on that if I may. Can you imagine where you can take a forest and turn it into a currency that is publicly used? So now you protect the forest, but at the same time, you create a valuable product for everybody to actually use. So as long as the currency is in use, the forest cannot be touched. And I don't think that's a beautiful thing. And that's a much better way of protecting our nature than you see today, where they are giving you carbon credits on forests that are already protected, and nobody understands how this whole system works anyway. So there's a lot of shenanigans happening. So that's one, and then of course clean energy or renewable energy for that matter. So yellow curry for solar panel, for example. So there is a lot of ways that you can spin this around, but all of them are Pandora's boxes that when you start going into it and digging into it, will be a whole complexity on its own. So for us right now, the focus is on Redcurry. Real estate is what we know. Two of our founders are their entire career in commercial real estate, and that's our strength, and we're weighing on that strength right now.
Fantastic. So fantastic potential there coming as well, not just with Redcurry now, but the green and the yellow. Got to love a good curry.
Yes.
I'm conscious of your time, Caspar. Because you guys are. We know how busy building projects are. So. Is there anything, any updates, anything like a few questions? How can people learn more, find out more about what you guys are doing? Also, what's on the roadmap? What's coming up? If you could share that with us, it'd be great.
Sure. So we actually have already launched our first part of community program. We call it Money Renaissance. And the second part of the community program launch is coming up. So we're launching it very soon. So if you want to see what this Money Renaissance is all about, go to our website, redcurry.co, and join the waitlist. And also we have a Discord channel where you can learn more about this Money Renaissance program. In essence, or on a higher level, we are launching Redcurry publicly soon. So Money Renaissance program is for the early adopters to come in, the early fans, and they will benefit as well. So once you join the Money Renaissance program, then you have a chance to take action. We don't ask you much, but you can do some things. You can learn more about how money works. You can not only learn about how Redcurry works, but it's an educational program. You can understand a little bit about maybe wealth storing, wealth savings. And you can earn from that. So what you will earn is our upcoming governance token. So our plan, long-term plan, is to decentralize the organization as well. So right now, of course, we're a startup, so it's a centralized setup, but we have a strategy in place. And actually, we are working with the Internet Native organization in Estonia, with the university as well, to develop a decentralization plan for Redcurry management. And for that, we will have a governance token launch coming up very soon. And then once you're a part of the Money Renaissance program as the early bird, then you will manage to earn this governance token that we will launch. And actually, there is you can earn Money Renaissance program can give you 10 million tokens in 10 weeks. So if you join that, you can actually earn that that governance token that will soon govern the entire organization of Redcurry, and that of course will govern Redcurry, the product itself. So join us on the website, and our everything is there. All the information you need is there. Redcurry.co, and of course Twitter if you're there, or x.com.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm just
thanks.
Sharing some of the stuff in the some links in the chat there for everyone to jump on Discord or in the website as well.
Yeah, but thanks for coming in, Casper. I'm looking forward to speaking to you again this week. On the dev side. But thank you for coming in, and thank you for sharing the insights. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and thanks, guys, to what you guys are doing, and thanks for inviting me. Happy to be here, and and everybody watching, and have a good rest of the week.
Thanks, Casper. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. All right.
Leaves,
I think Matthew.
Yeah, let's dive in. Matthew, would you like to take us on a journey for the updates from L1X end?
Yeah. I thought what we might do is just touch on tonight a little bit about Xperks program, and also nodes as well. I'll touch on Xperks, and Kim can probably touch a little bit on the nodes, what we're doing with the nodes. But it will just be just a briefing tonight, because what we want to do is we really want to go in full detail next week, because that's when we will have all the information of the nodes, and the Xperks will open up towards the end of next week. But tonight is just a bit of an overview of both of those. But definitely join us for next week for a lot more detail on it. So with Xperks, I'll touch on Xperks. With Xperks, I'll just probably cover off a few things that maybe most people already know. But Xperks, once it opens up, you'll have the choice of 3 tiers. So you've got silver, you've got gold, and you've got platinum. Now, there are the details. I'll just share in the chat as well, in terms of the link to all the details on the Xperks, but I'll share that so people can have a look at those if they want to refresh themselves on those details. But once it opens up, you have the choice of 3 tiers. Now, if you're private and seed round, then you must opt into one of those tiers: silver, gold, and platinum. And on the link I share, it will have all the benefits. If you're public sale, you can opt in, or you can choose to opt out with your and stick to the public sale vesting, which is daily for the first 4 months from TGE. In terms of other vesting as well, we'll be releasing how we're going to vest all the competition tokens, airdrops, referrals, all those things we'll be releasing as well, so you'll know exactly vesting. But pretty much they'll be in line with, let's say, if you refer to seed and private, it'll be in line with the seed and private sort of vesting stuff. So, but we'll be releasing all those details as well that come out. Once you go into Xperks, then obviously you'll have your vesting schedule that you've chosen. So all of them have a 3-month cliff. Silver has a 15-month vesting, gold has an 18-month vesting, and then platinum has a 24-month vesting. And you'll be getting various different bonus coins as well, which will have a 3-month clip and then 4-month vesting. There's a lot of detail there, but a lot of this is explained on the link that I'll share with you guys. I'm pretty excited about XPEX because it's not just about going in and opting in for this a particular vesting period, but there's things that you can get in there like the bonus coins. You've got opportunities for launchpad applications. You've got opportunities for airdrops and giveaways. You've got opportunities to join the alpha room. We'll be actually launching that on the L1X app. More details next week, where we'll be sharing some insights, potentially some behind the scenes stuff for the alpha room guys as well with them. And then obviously you also have the ability to unlock a node NFT. And so if you're public sale, you can unlock a node NFT at silver, gold, or platinum. But if you're private and seed, you must unlock a node NFT at gold or platinum. And so I think that's probably a good. That's the overview. But just know that we'll go into a deep detail next week as well when we just before we open it up. But I think Kevin, maybe you want to cover a little bit of the nodes.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And I think just following up on the XPEX as well, right? Because it's such an important, phase. And from the node side, of course, I'll share my board again, right, for 5 minutes. But on the node side, we will probably on Friday evening we have the consensus deep dive, and in the consensus deep dive, there is a section on nodes where hosting your own nodes, hardware requirements, who will be able to host their nodes, all those information will be covered up over there as well. Oh, what happened to Matthew? Okay, all good. And right now, what I'm going to show you is, because you're joining the XPEX and you are getting the early access to the nodes, what type of nodes you will be having access to. And we'll also look at what kind of information will be stored in those nodes. But next week, we will also look at the rewards that you're going to have. It's pretty good rewards, probably I think the best, offered by any node class. Let me actually share my screen.
I think we should give this board a name, eh?
Yeah, we should. I was, I think it helps to, what's going on with the stream?
I pushed that idea to the community earlier that we need a GIF that's basically like the Kevin board. And somebody should definitely make that and spam in the chat with that launch day for sure.
Okay. So let's just look at the first one, right? Now, what's going to happen is our nodes that we have, they are divided into 4 different parts, right? So we have the token cluster, basically responsible for processing all the tokens transaction, which is the L1X coins. So these are the first type of nodes that will be up. So, because last time when we tried to transfer, our nodes were pretty clogged up. So this technology was already built, and we are going to release this on the 2nd of April. And the token cluster nodes will help us start getting all these L1X transactions that we required, so that there is no one who misses out because of the network congestion. We also have the XTOC cluster that will be, on the second level, where a lot of the cross-chain swaps, multi-chain, single staking, multi-chain balancer pool, the DIGA games are there. So all these projects will be using XTOC. All of them are using XTOC. So those kind of clusters or nodes will also be into position. And of course, we have the L1X contract and L1X EVM cluster. So in terms of the order of priority, we have L1X token cluster, XTOC cluster, we have the contract and EVM clusters. So in this way, there are node configurations. So when you will go and host your own node, you will be able to configure what type of node you want to host. Now, initially, the rewards are going to be the same across all the nodes, but then the algorithm is going to decide based on the traffic coming in which nodes are required, so they can reposition yourself into the nodes requiring higher level of transactions. So we also have the validators. So what we have done is, because there is a lot of calls that are being made on the nodes for read only. So you just want to read the state of the blockchain. Now, what we have done is lucky that once you participate in the experts, you will be classified as a boot node. So all of you that have the node NFT, the full validator node NFT, will be able to vote, right, and propose the block. So in this way, none of the people that host their own node will miss out on any transaction fees as well. But at the same time, what we have done is, for the people that do not have a node NFT, we still want them to go and host a node and get a certain part of the transaction. The reason for that is the non-validators will sync up with the boot nodes. And in this case, whenever someone wants to make a read-only call on the blockchain, they will do it from the non-validators, because if the read-only calls are pretty high, that's what we have seen in the traffic. We don't want to, actually clog the boot nodes and waste your resources. So in this way, we have seen that the non-validators will act as archive nodes for us, and help us to make sure that if there are read-only calls on the network, it's still maintained in that way. Yeah, and of course, there is also a way on how you are going to become a validator. I'll go through this in the next AMA as well, and even in consensus. But just briefly, whenever you have a new node that you have, you will sync up with the boot nodes that are already there. So we already have certain boot nodes up and running. So the moment you can either do it on your system, so you will do it on your laptop, or you can use one of our cloud providers that we will give you the instructions for on how to do it. We'll make it simple to do that. So you can either do it on your system or on the cloud service providing. Now, there is a minimum of stake that we have seen, right? That is the node NFT that you have. This is the part where once you say that, all right, you want to be a part of the node, we will check if you have your NFT or not. So in the node NFT process, the wallet address that you have, you will be able to use the same account to register the node. So there is a private key in the configuration that you can sign. So you don't have to share your private key, and you will be able to host your node in that particular way. So once these nodes are come through, then the new validators that want to come in, where they are not boot nodes, you will allow them to be a part of the ecosystem. So of course, they don't have the node NFT, but there is still a minimum L1X coin requirement over there. Now, the fees that you're going to earn is going to be, maximum is going to be with the boot node. But for these archive nodes that may cost like $50 a month, $30 a month, they will still be able to make some money out of it once the boot nodes validated. And again, I'll go through this more in the consensus and then in the next week. So it's like a gradual process of understanding how this is going to work. But the whole infrastructure is designed in such a way that there will be limited amount of nodes coming in every month. They will be distributed into these clusters. And again, for the read-only calls, we have archive nodes where anyone can host a node. And I think it's important because the node NFTs are very limited, right? It's pretty limited. And the APRs on that are also going to be higher. And now that, the node NFTs are limited, we still have these GET calls that have to be serviced. So for those requirements only, these kind of archive nodes, are going to be very helpful. Now, which one should you choose? We'll go through that in the documentation with you once we have it, but it's not going to make a lot of difference because the whole consensus is designed to reposition certain nodes in certain ways so that the traffic coming in is understood and your nodes are used in that places so that your transaction fees are also given to you based on that.
Kevin, are you able to cover just for like maybe the uninitiated, what is a node, right? What does it do? Like, and how does it? Why does a blockchain need a node or nodes?
Mm-hmm. So, okay, there are the best way to look at this is through an analogy where you have incoming, you have processing, and you have an outcome. And the tenet of blockchain is making sure that the outcome, which is the state, is agreed upon by majority of the people. Yeah. Now, what you require to update the state is something called as a virtual machine, where you are processing a certain transaction in a way that everyone else processes it in the same way, which is deterministic. Now, if you need to bundle the virtual machine and the database that acts as the underlying state manager, then you need to bundle that in a way that can be executed on your computer, or it can be executed on on the cloud. And that bundling up of the virtual machine and the state management is what makes a node, in very simple terms.
Mm-hmm. So basically, it helps validate transactions. It also stores the blockchain, right? And it performs so many different things within the ecosystem. So by hosting a node, you're helping to secure the system in a lot of ways, right? Maybe Mike, you want to jump in here in terms of
really what it's doing, it's actually decentralizing, because when you look at a lot of traditional systems, when you look at what they call IaaS, or infrastructure as a service, we moved on from then into software as a service. Now we're heading into true decentralization. Instead of having it running in a data center for a company, or even a PC at home, what you're now doing is we moved to the next generation, which is software as a service, where services such as Amazon come into play. We're now moving into the next generation where things are truly decentralized, where really anybody can run one of those nodes anywhere in the world. And as long as they've got the internet connection, as long as they've got power and stability, they will be a participant on the network and provide for that validation process. And that decentralization also increases the security of the network. So it's really adding to the whole premise of a truly decentralized, scalable, secure, and totally interoperable solution.
I think that's an important aspect for people to know, is that when you participate by hosting a node, you're adding real value to it's another block in the chain, forgive the pun, but it's another block in the health of the ecosystem. And that's where community members, if you're wanting to take that level up in terms of being active, on the protocol level, then I think node hosting is an excellent way to be able to do it. And obviously, sometimes it depends on your financial situation, but then delegated staking also helps as well. When you stake coins onto the nodes, that also helps secure the network and the health of the system.
Totally.
100%. It's like this, right? There are only two inevitable things in life: death and taxes. On blockchain, it's interoperability and nodes. So I think, I think, and again, it's crazy, because the event listener node and full validator nodes, people have opted in for it, and the people who host it, even if you look at it from the interoperability angle for event listener nodes, as we were discussing today, right? The pathway of taking, receipt tokens on L1X that you get, even your BPT token, for example, and then being able to use them to secure the event listener node, actually acts as a multi-chain secure consensus environment for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You just dropped a little bit of alpha there, man.
A little bit of alpha,
yeah. But yeah, no, look, it should be an exciting time for the community. There's so many exciting things that we've got coming up, right? We've got the launch now announced, 2nd of April, 2424, for those. You like that little number sequence, eh? Yeah, I didn't come up with it. I saw it somewhere. I was like, oh, that's good.
It couldn't be 1st of April. So
yeah. Yeah, true. It's a good point. But I think, and I think node hosting is another one. Experts program node hosting. So if you're wanting to go into experts and you want to get the ability to host a node, then you can do that. So make sure you have we'll release all the details for you guys. We'll have some explainers on how you do it. For the uninitiated, we'll put together some videos, so how you go into experts. So it's very easy to do.
Awesome.
So we've got that to look forward to next week.
That was good. Yeah.
All right, guys. Look, thank you for the community for turning up once again.
Last one.
Yeah, please, yeah.
Last one. Has the team considered lowering the price of Node NFT? We won't. I don't think we should give the number right now. But yes, we have, and we have already lowered the price.
Yeah. You come. Oh, good question. Yeah. We're squeezing out the alpha, aren't they? Yeah. I like it.
Just dragging it out. You have to turn up next Wednesday. That's when all the fun stuff happens.
Yeah. Let's answer all the questions then. Yeah. Let's take the questions then.
Yeah, absolutely. So at least you guys know what's coming up next. We'll go into experts. We'll go into node hosting. We'll have everything there. So make sure you're there. Make sure you got your questions ready. We're happy to answer all those questions. But thank you for attending tonight. It's great to see everyone here again. If you couldn't make it, thank you for looking at the recording. Obviously, it'll be up, so you can have a look at that as well.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming. Big thanks from the community, obviously, guys. Continuing to be on the lives as well and giving us the updates of how everything's going. 2424. That's we're getting close. Every day is a little bit closer. So I know I can see the excitement building. I see that Sleazy's already started building the Kevin board GIF, so that's underway. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that just popping up everywhere. So I don't know. That's the level of generosity that I'm sure Sleazy will come up with. So I'm really excited for that. Yeah. So heaps of good things coming out. If you're not here for the nodes, then you should be here for Sleazy's GIFs at very least. But once again, big thanks to the team. Huge thanks as well to Casper from Redcurry. I think it's really interesting project, and it also shows the caliber of projects that are going to need the infrastructure of L1X as well. So
I think that's quickly, right? That's a really good point. Like, for the community that are watching now, and also the ones that watch the recording, can you see how X-Talk, right, how valuable it is to projects out there? Like, Redcurry is one example of thousands, right, that want to have their token everywhere. They want to have exposure to multiple communities, multiple, different blockchains, because the more places you are, right, the more utility you will have. Because if you can issue a token on a Redcurry token on Binance, and then there's a project in Binance that wants to pick that up as collateral, and then you've got another project on Solana doing the same, or you got something on Ethereum that wants allow you to lend it. Like the X-Talk infrastructure is
it's the core.
It is. It will have a massive impact on the way projects do things and we use it.
And we have seen this right now, right? Like, only with few projects, but it's like no-brainer. And the best part about it is there is no competition. Like, there's no one else who does that, and I think that's crazy. That's crazy to have, because it's going to take like years for projects to even build something like this.
Yeah. There's so many that claim the word interoperability, but nobody can do it until now.
Yep.
And it's so good to see projects, benefiting from it, in so many different ways, which is excellent, But we don't.
Right.
It's that seeing the diversity as well from Eldaroon last week, obviously through Redcurry this week as well. It's not just one style of project to be all, but we'll wrap that there. Otherwise, if we let Matthew geek out, we're going to be here for another 6 or 7 hours. Everyone has to be board. It's going to be a disaster. So
especially with his new webcam.
Yeah. It looks crisp.
I've got to really go this book.
Those books are all fake.
Those books,
that's painted.
Those books are in the same position they were in 2 years ago when I talked to Matthew.
That's it. All right, we'll wrap it up. Huge thanks everybody for coming. We'll close it down, but we'll see you on the next one. We do have one Friday evening Perth time or Australian time rather.
I think 4 p.m.
It's 4 p.m. Perth time, which would be 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is something else everywhere else in the world. So good luck with that.
Consensus mechanism.
Yeah. So understanding the infrastructure for those, I think we've probably got people that have now started to geek out with us. So if you're on that journey, definitely turn up and have a look at how the underlying mechanism, how it all works.
Yep. So that'll be Friday.
Whiteboards galore.
Miros everywhere. The Miro Kevin board.
The metaverse of consensus.
Awesome, guys. We'll wrap it up there. But once again, thanks everyone for coming, and we'll see you on Friday. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.